Tracey.
That didn't sound like you, Lisa.
Well, hello, Tracey.
Let's
hello,
start again.
Tracey.
Let's go. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
Here we are in your beautiful kitchen today, in your lovely house,
Thank you, Lisa.
for our very first episode of our YouTube channel.
Yes.
So,
Truth, courage, and tea.
yes, and we're having a cup of tea. So, we've boiled the kettle. We're
Yep.
going to grab ourselves a cuppa, right? So let's
We
do
are.
that. What have we got today?
I'm going to actually try this Cheeky Cherries Known Stranger tea. Haven't tried this before, and this one is actually leaves in a little bag. So I think, you know, if you're happy with this one as well,
You might be able to just pop it in there actually and leave the tea bag out.
maybe just keep,
The string out.
Yeah.
Or take it off completely.
yeah, just like so.
This is what I love about what we're going to be doing in our Truth, Courage and Tea. I call it a podcast, but we're going on YouTube. Is just, you know, letting
Completely
things
natural.
flow. Letting things
Completely
flow.
natural, non-scripted. So we've got a few more teas here that we'll try in another episode. Today it's going to be Cheeky Cherries. So I think that's going to be very sweet. We've got a few different teapots that we'll be using and cups that we'll be using and tea that we'll be using. I'm going to pour the water.
All right, let's get the water going. So welcome to our very first episode of Truth, Courage and Tea. We are so glad that you have chosen to spend some of your time with us today. And we hope that moving forward we're able to, I guess, create a space that you feel like you want to come back to every week with your cuppa. Whether you like tea or coffee or whatever it is that you like, we would love for you to join us every week. So thank you again. Don't forget to subscribe. We're always going to be talking about that, to subscribe. This is very new to both of us. But yeah, here we are. So we're going to pour our tea.
Yeah, and we suggest you grab a cup of tea too and join us.
So just so you know who we are, because we've introduced ourselves. Tracey's going to come a little bit closer into the shot, so we're new at this as well. I'm Lisa.
I'm Tracey.
And we wanted to start this podcast for ourselves really. So we'll talk more about that in a minute when we have our cuppa. So come join us, get your cuppa, and let's go sit down and enjoy it.
Can't wait to see you.
So let me pour the cuppas. What cup are you using today?
Okay, so I'm actually going with a cup that is very special to me. So I got this from Starbucks. Funnily enough, I'm not a huge Starbucks fan, but I was on a girls' trip in Sydney with my mum and Ash, and when we went into the Starbucks there, they had one of these thermo mugs, and it's got all the New York icons on it, and I just love yellow cabs, the pretzel, Statue of Liberty, Brooklyn Bridge. I don't know what it is about New York. I've got a few things like this, but it's really special. So I often put my first morning tea in this, take it to work, I walk to work, and this way I can drink while I'm walking. So so I'm going to have my tea in this morning.
I love that. Mine is just a good old favourite. It's just my go-to everyday mug. I drink more tea than coffee. I do drink coffee, but this is my favourite go-to. So I guess it makes me feel good. Yeah, so I have my tea in that mug. Over the course of this series, we will share with you different cups of teas and tea cups and
teapots,
what they mean to us, and so
maybe you're going to be able to share what's special for you too.
Yeah, so one of the things that I think has been really important for us we've been thinking about this for
a long time,
like years and years, and we've gone through a complete iteration of names and what we want to talk about, and we were all ready to sort of go last week, and then as we were talking, we changed. And I think that is the beautiful thing about having conversations, is that we change.
Yeah, you can evolve. I'm really big on evolving at the moment, and even in conversations you can evolve. So where we were very fixated on something, we did a complete flip, and we just love what we're doing, what we've come up with. So, and we hope that you love this too.
Yeah, so Truth, Courage and Tea, and I guess that came about because we really wanted to start having better conversations. We noticed that there are a lot of conversations out there, but there are a lot of conversations that are based on, I guess, what I would call rage.
Yeah, yeah.
And people's very strong views, and there's nothing wrong with having, strong views, we all have them, but very strong views, so much so that we've seen it, right, where families have broken up because people have different views, friendships have broken down.
Yeah, I think there was, I think that really became epidemic around COVID. I don't want to single out a period in time, but I just feel like that's when a lot of social things did break down. There was a lot of them and us, there were the vaccinated, the unvaccinated, there was no tolerance for either. People were, I think, deliberately, turning against each other. That was the intent behind it. And there was a lot of social fabric that was broken, and I think that's what inspired us to create what we've created, because we feel like the art of conversation has been lost. It's so many conversations you get into are very opinionated, and people become very argumentative, and there's so much doom and gloom in the world, and doom scrolling, going down rabbit holes is a thing, but all it does is feed negativity and toxicity. So we wanted to sort of lighten things up and just have everyday conversations that are meaningful and impactful and are not getting spoken about because we're bogged down in negativity.
Yeah, I think Tracey and I both, that is something that we have in common. And you'll hopefully see this throughout the series, is that we actually have hope. Like, we are hopeful people and we are optimistic. And I think that is some of the stuff for me that has been missing in conversations, is that, people are afraid to say things or to bring things up because of what someone else might say or think about them, or you might get shouted down. And so this place that we want to create is a place where we're not always going to agree on things either, and you may not agree with what we are talking about, or you may not agree with our views, and that's perfectly fine, because that's a great place to be in. The world would not be a beautiful place if we all agreed on the same thing. But I think that the most exciting thing for me about this adventure is that we will explore topics, we will explore conversations. Hopefully you'll share some of the things that you would like us to talk about as well. But I think this will be a place where we can open up a little bit, and that's what having a cup of tea for me is always about. It's about sitting down, having a conversation. So yeah,
100%, and that's why when we actually came up with this concept and the name, the tea thing really resonated with me. It actually gave me goosebumps, because I felt like I'm almost honouring my grandmother's era, my nana's era. So I just remember growing up that a cup of tea fixed everything. You know, you could be at a funeral and feel, grief-stricken, sad, and someone offers you a cup of tea and you just feel better.
Right.
Or you've had an argument and, apologising, I'll make you a cup of tea, to feel better. So I think there's something very healing with tea.
Yeah, definitely. And this cherry tea, what was it called?
Yeah.
It's quite nice.
It's quite nice.
Yeah. So who are we? And I guess, a little bit maybe about ourselves, Trace, and where we've come from. And so do you want to start?
Well, look, I'm 58 years old, so I've got a lot of history. I guess essentially what I'd like you to know about me that a lot of people don't know about me is, as a child, I was chronically shy, introverted, to the point that I didn't like school, because school was social, it was community, and I never wanted to be the focus, the attention, and I never wanted to ask questions or answer questions. And when I went into the workforce, obviously in the workforce you have to come out of your shell, because you have to actually meet people and talk to people. And being even then so chronically shy, I used to have to, in my first job where I was actually in my dream job in travel, but in order to approach people at the door, sometimes I used to run into the tea room and self-talk before I even approached someone, just to tell myself I was just as good as everyone else, not better, but just as good as everybody else. That's how chronically shy I was. Now, people that know me today think the opposite. I'm outgoing, I like to be the centre of attention. I guess that's part of the human evolution, you know, just like butterflies, you know, from a caterpillar to a butterfly, we can evolve in a lifetime and we can, you know, change and we can become better versions of ourselves. But, you know, I was in travel, absolutely love travel, still do. You know, have regrets that I never continued to pursue that career when I moved interstate, got into a government job. Government job serviced me for 26 years and it sort of picked me. I didn't pick it. I remember I had a manager when I first started out that saw something in me and she put me forward for leadership roles. And there is something in that because sometimes people see in you what you can't see in yourself.
Absolutely.
And because I didn't have that confidence, that's why I say it picked me. I didn't pick it. But I think through that evolution as I grew and I did personal development, I should have, just like that caterpillar to a butterfly, I should have evolved and done other things and used that confidence in different ways instead of being, like a lot of people, stuck in a safe and secure role. My husband had a small business, so it was important that we had that regular income coming in. But I've had, you know, a life of challenges and dramas, not necessarily as a child, but certainly as an adult when I got married. You know, it's been pretty constant. So I have become very resourceful and resilient, and I have that grit that people talk about. Maybe that's why this appeals to me so much. It's not that I want to come on here and lecture people or say to people, don't do what I did, you know, because no two situations are the same.
That's right.
So just because I did what I did and maybe got a good outcome doesn't mean if you did the same that you would also get an outcome. So again, that's why these conversations are important. We're not going to lecture or preach. We're just going to share and talk about real stuff, not just stuff that rages people and is controversial.
And we do get rage. Don't you ever think that we don't get ragified. I'm not sure if that's a real word, but we do get ragified about things. And that's not to say that we won't talk about it, but I think it's how we talk about these things these days.
100%.
And Tracey and I have known each other for, I was trying to think, how many years?
Where are we now? Yes, it would be about 15 years ago.
About 15
about
years.
15 years.
So we have known each other for 15 years, and over that time we found that we have a lot in common, travel. And we both got children, and we've got, like I said before, that positive, I guess, that optimistic outlook and hopefulness that no matter how challenging things get for us or for the world, that there is always hope. And I think we grab hold of that, which is great.
And interestingly, at one stage there, or on a number of occasions, Lisa was actually my boss. You know, my line manager, the person that I had to go to. I had a lot of respect for Lisa, and Lisa did inspire me. You know, you have to find a person in life that you aspire to, and there were so many things about Lisa's mindset that attracted me to her. Don't get me wrong, she was a hard taskmaster at times. I remember times Lisa pissed me off, but at the same time, she was really good at bringing the best out in people, and that was your strength. That was your genius.
I wasn't looking for that, but I'll take it. Thank you. I think that is the thing, is that we at the core of who we are. You talk about that grit that you have, and I think I've got that same grit, and I think at the core of who we are has enabled us to see beyond the jobs that we had to a friendship where we now, we catch up. Well, we'll be catching up very regularly now, but we go out to dinner regularly. So, and lunches and different shows and whatnot. So,
And ironically, we have the best conversations when
we do. Right? We do, even over a glass of wine. We are not adverse to a glass of wine, and we'd have some great conversations then. Maybe we might do a wine night one time. But so I'm Lisa, and I'm 61, and I've led. I always say an average life, but I guess it's not average because all our lives are, our life experiences are impacted differently by, the things that happen in our world from the minute we're born to the minute we die. But I feel like I've had a good life. I've had a privileged life, so I think that has stood me in pretty good stead for aging and trying to navigate through this world. So I've just recently retired from my government job in April this year, April 2026. And Tracey talked a little bit about regrets before, and there are some things I think we lie to ourselves if we say we've not regretted anything in our life, because I think there are many regrets that we have. We just don't want to admit it a lot of times because we think that then makes us a failure. But I've got some regrets in my life, and we'll talk, as the series goes on, we'll talk about those different things. I'm sure they will come up in conversations. But I've worked very hard for 44 years. I started working when I was around 17 and at 61, so I think the math is about right, 44 years. I've worked really, really hard, and I've achieved success in some things, and there are other things that didn't go so well. Been married for 40 years to my husband Paul, and we've got 2 children. I've got 2 grandchildren who are the light of my life and Paul's life. And I think again we will definitely talk about this sort of stuff. But as you get older, what brings you joy changes. From when you were 20 and 30 and 40, and then as you get older, things your life changes, and your values change, and things that bring you, for me, things that have brought me joy change, and our grandchildren bring us the most joy, although closely followed by travel. We do still love to travel. So you'll get to know us both as we continue through this Truth, Courage and Tea conversation. One of the things that really drew us was, and we might have mentioned this before, is that, we believe that the art of just sitting down and having a good conversation has been lost. Yeah. And Tracey did touch, about, having a cup of tea. I remember, years ago, I'm 61, my great-grandmother, we used to sit in her kitchen. She used to read tea leaves. And it was the whole family, in my memory, the whole family was sitting around the table. We'd all drink our tea, and then, she would empty out, you'd empty out the last bit, and then she'd read your tea leaves. So that memory of tea for me, is definitely family and connection. So I think we're onto something. But there are lots of things, I guess, that have changed over time that have impacted on our, the ability to have a good conversation. And I feel like, hopefully, with you and with us, we can start to talk about things that maybe are a bit more difficult to talk about.
I think both you and I, Lisa, coming from government jobs, and now it's affecting, the wider business in Australia, but there was a lot of, I know I felt it, whether you did, that in a leadership role, you just always had to be so careful what you said. So outside of work, you became careful about what you said. You had to be apolitical. You had to be careful with how you spoke to your staff. Yeah. You didn't want to be considered a bully or harassing them, just directing them to do something. So I think there was an element in that that's also contributed. There's a lot of women's stuff where women have lost their voice, and there's some things that we'll be talking about, with age. Women get to an age where not necessarily society doesn't value them anymore and what they have to say, but you may feel that way. You may be over 50 and feel like you don't have the same value anymore.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think there are lots of, different types of communities that we find ourselves in, like workplaces. I guess sporting, there's like a lot of different groups that we find ourselves in over time that will actually shape the way we do speak and the things that we talk about. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Workplaces, and of course, absolutely right, we should be treating everyone with respect in the workplace. I always found, though, there are some times that you did need to have some pretty robust conversations in the workplace that some people were scared to have because of what ramifications they might, have upon them or others. So I think there's a time and place for everything, but around the tea table, I think everything's up for grabs.
100%.
And I also think that another thing is, we talked a little bit about this, is social media has definitely shaped the way we have conversations these days. And for me, sometimes it is the loudest gets heard. It doesn't really matter what their views are. It's just, if you're loud enough, you will quiet the people who have something very valuable to add to a conversation, but they don't feel like that they'll be listened to, I guess. So, part of what we will do is hopefully become good listeners or better listeners
100%.
Than we were before we started this.
Yeah, and respecting the diversity. Like, at the end of the day, that's why conversation shuts down. As you said, that loudest person at the table, with the quietest person at the table. The quietest person is essentially too afraid to say anything because they'll get shouted down by the loudest person. So it's having that tolerance that, we can learn so much from conversation. What we do, is not necessarily right. I have a daughter, a 20-year-old daughter, and I brought her up to question everything, to be curious about everything, and not because you want to argue, because in children, a why is a form of argument, but I wanted to make sure that I wasn't imposing my beliefs on her, that she could question anything that I did, because what I was doing or what I was saying or what I believed in was not necessarily right.
We're learning every day. None of us have lived this day before. None of us have lived the experiences, that we're having today. So I think that's really important. And I think that's what excites me the most about what we're doing, is because I absolutely, hand on heart, have been one of those people who has been loudest at the table, without a doubt. And as I grew in my leadership role and as I grew as a person, and it might have been later in life that I realised it, but I certainly realised it, that there is a time when you just need to be quiet and listen. And, there are some great books out there, and we'll share some books that we've read over time. But Simon Sinek has some great books on leadership, and, I think there's one called The Leader Eats Last or something like that, which is really just around, if you're in a leadership position, it's about listening first and then speaking, so that you don't influence, others, because again, most of us will have a leader who, in a workplace generally, that it doesn't matter what they're saying, we're not going to challenge their view because they're the leader. So I'm excited about what we've got coming up, and we hope you get excited with us too. So Truth, Courage and Tea is the name, and we chose that. A lot of what we talked about is the reason why we chose it. I think we are both, around the truth part of it. It is about honesty and having those honest conversations and seeking some understanding about why other people may have different views to us, which of course they will, but we want to try and learn. It's
still their truth, and I think, both myself and my husband, a lot of the challenges that we've had in our married life has been around trust, which is a form of, truth. Trusting people that are not necessarily good people. Yeah. So, this is why the truth is so important to me. I don't want to be in a room full of wolves in sheep suits. Really, integrity and honesty and transparency is my highest value. And again, I used to say to my daughter, I'll trust you unless you give me a reason not to. Yeah. Well, that wasn't necessarily the right value to have or the right outlook to have, because that also meant for me, if a stranger approached me, I would trust them immediately unless they gave me a reason not to. So that was, I guess if you call that a failure, that was a failure in life, and I've definitely been burnt more times than you can count on your hands. But that's all part of life's journey too, and it's taught me a lot. But what it has done is it's made me really, really want to be around people that are truthful, and to bring out what's truth to you, Lisa, might be different to what's true for me too.
Yeah.
So it's really challenging that, and that's why I love the fact that, you know, this is what we're about. We're about truth, and the courage is just, you know, it's really a big part of today's world.
Yeah,
you know,
it is that speaking up. Well, even, you know, to have the courage to speak your truth. You know, everyone tells you, it doesn't matter where you go these days, speak your truth, be authentic, you know, be these things. And it's easier said than done, because like we mentioned before, you can put something out there, you can speak your truth, and if someone comes along and, you know, they can use harsh words, and that just knocks you back down, where you're like, I'm not even going to speak up anymore, because I don't, you know, every time I do, someone knocks me down. So that courage to, you know, even in the hardest of times, the most challenging of times, you know, to speak up and to listen to other people and to challenge respectfully, you know, and being vulnerable. I mean, we will be vulnerable. How vulnerable we get, we'll just have to wait and see. But, you know, we will get vulnerable and have those type of conversations. But I think, you know, courage is also about having the willingness to see someone else's point of view, but also change your mind if you need to. It's okay to change your mind just because of what you thought yesterday. If you learn something new today, it's perfectly fine to change your mind, right? And I think that takes courage.
I remember growing up, a lot of people used to say, you know, because I was often, you know, able to be persuaded in terms of, you know, what was right, what was wrong, what was good, what was bad. And it was seen as a form of weakness, that you were easily influenced.
Yeah.
But I don't see that anymore. I actually see it very, very differently. I don't see that it's a form of weakness at all.
And also courage is about having those difficult conversations, even when they feel hard. So I think we'll explore some of that over time. And definitely then the T component, we've talked about the T component, it's comfort. It's, you know, it feels like home, I guess, for us, or for me anyway. And I think, you know, that's what we are hoping, that these conversations, they will bring out memories, they will bring up hopefully new friendships. And yeah, that's, you know, that feeling of welcomeness. I mean, that's the other thing. I think today, you know, I always remember back in the day, and I saw a thing on, I don't know, social media somewhere about this. You would just drop over to someone's place, right? You didn't have to book a time or anything. You would just, I was driving past, thought we'd pop in for a cuppa. I mean, that just doesn't happen anymore. You've got to almost make an appointment with people to come to their place or to go out or whatever. So, you know, just know that you are more than welcome to come and have your tea with us every week. Our door is always open, I think.
Yes, it is.
And I guess that's how the channel came about. That's, you know, we thought that they were the type of conversations that we wanted to have. And the type of things that we want to talk about over time will be varied, be wide and varied. We might talk about, you know, topical issues that have happened during a week, because there will be important things that come up, but we're not going to get, I think as you might have talked about earlier, we're not going to get bogged down in the day-to-day stuff, because we'll never achieve anything. Yeah. But things like relationships, marriage, kids, mental health.
And it may be things that are going on, you know, like right now.
That's right.
You know,
yeah.
and it could be negative things and bad things, but with a view to, I don't know, somehow lighten that, or, you know, for example, this morning I couldn't believe that I was woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and there were two older ladies with a torch, and they were going along all of our recycle bins along the street. They were walking, they had their dog, it's in the dark, and they were picking out the plastic bottles and the glass bottles.
Oh, right,
you know,
right, yeah.
So obviously older ladies, you know, cash is an issue, and that was their way of being discreet, I guess, that really,
Yeah.
really,
we will talk about issues that are affecting people, us, you, but we want to also get that broader conversation and really, family, aging, finances, money, travel. Well, there'll be no doubt that at some point we will be travelling and we will, do these episodes while we're travelling. But there are things like grief. I mean, we all have grief in our life and joy and purpose and, just those things that affect us every day, I guess. And as Tracey did say before, we're not here to tell you what to do or how to do it or to give you advice. We're just here to ask better questions for us, and we are learning as we go along as well. So
100%. And I guess even though we're not a media channel, and so much fake news out there, I think people are just so tired of what they don't know, what's real and what is real. So you can rely on us being real and having real conversations.
We literally just had to stop and edit because Tracey forgot what she was talking about, and I went, I don't even know if I'm recording this, so those moments will happen for sure. I know. And I guess then, so if our channel is still going, and that's what I've got to call it, a channel, not a podcast, a channel. Yeah. If our channel is still going in 10 years, Tracey, what do you hope that people will be saying about it? That's a hard question, I know, and I just threw it on you, but...
No, well, I think that's the whole point. Like, Lisa and I have always come from a place of us wanting to make an impact, and I think this is really important to us, having those healing conversations, those truthful conversations, those important conversations, and society is moving the other way, and we need to get back to the village, we need to get back to the community. And I think, just through conversation, that's what we can do. So if we can make an impact, and if in 10 years we're still doing these podcasts and you're still coming on every week, and we will be consistent, so you can rely on us as well, then...
Shoot, I'll be 71.
Yeah, and I'll be 68. Oh my God. This is the thing, like... We have to do something in our lives.
You don't just stop working and then stop doing stuff. You have to, and we've got so much opportunity these days, and we'll talk about that. I think that's a whole nother episode. So I think that just so that we can start to wrap this up as our first episode, I think we are going to be talking about a lot of things, and there will be stuff that is very relevant for today, but there will be other things that we, focus on and highlight kindness and how good humanity can be, and, I guess community and younger generations. Tracey and I both have a real view about our younger generations and how we believe, they will survive, and, maybe they will do better than we did. And what we would also, before we, at the end of every episode, we want to leave you with a question. So, and we would love you to share this in the comments with us. So don't forget to subscribe and like and, all the things. But we would love for you to tell, we do have little notes as well, just so you know. What we would love to know today is, what is one conversation that you have been putting off that if you had that conversation, it might change something for you for the better? So we would love to know that in the comments, and maybe any topics that you would love us to talk about, because we've got things that we want to talk about, but you might have other things that we haven't even thought of to start conversations. So what conversations do you think that the world needs more of? We would love for you to share that with us. So really, I think that's the end of episode 1.
I think so. I think absolutely, any topics. We're not the ones necessarily driving this. We're just the ones that are prepared to have the conversations. Yeah. So anything that you want to talk about, and as we go along, if we can get subscriptions and we can invite people to come on. Yeah. You mentioned today about tea leaf reading. The old art of tea leaf reading. Like, we might be able to get somebody on. You might know somebody, and we can actually do an episode around that.
Do you read tea leaves? Let us know.
Yeah.
Because I used to love that. Actually, I did, many years ago, I also went to another lady who reads tea leaves. And anyway, I wrote down a lot of stuff. I don't know whether it's come true. We've moved so many times since then. But that's the type of conversations we want to have as well. So thank you for spending your time with us this week. We really do appreciate it. And just remember to keep asking questions and to, keep choosing courage and speaking up and using your voice in a way that makes the world a better place, I guess.
Exactly.
I've got this written down here. Never underestimate the power of a good conversation over a cup of tea.
And that's what we're about. Cheers.
See ya.